Hello and welcome to this episode of Debriefing. I'm your host, Lucky Fox Zero, and with me is No Green Knights.
Hello.
And Radiant Arkwolf.
Greetings, Briefcakes.
And on this episode, we'll be playing through Episode 9, Chapter 5 of Halo 4's Spartan Ops, and today's topic of discussion is the Halo 4 armor abilities. So, Nogri, why don't you start us off with the Hardlight Shield?
Okay, so personally I like the Hardlight Shield. It's probably I use it fairly exclusively, with the exception of one of my classes, one of my loadouts rather. I like it because it's kind of their reduction in ability from the armor lock of Halo Reach, which was overpowered, I will freely admit, but I still loved it.
Oh no! Phantoms, get to cover!
But yeah, it gives you some protection, lets you move around, and you know it does reflect some of your heavier weapons from time to time. It doesn't do it consistently though. So it's probably my favorite one out there right now.
Radiant?
Since I'm never ever going to get a Jackal Shield, the Hardlight Shield is the best I'm ever going to get, apparently. And it's good. I think that it's a toned down version of the armor lock ability, which will reach. But I'm with Nogri. I understand the fact that it was overpowered in Reach.
Nice.
But I haven't found it as useful against vehicles or as consistent in a lot of ways. The Hardlight Shield is used. But yeah, I think it's useful. And as far as canon, it makes a lot of sense.
Watch out for the
use
crawlers,
Hardlight
they're everywhere.
not only with the Covenant, but also all over Promethean world. Yeah, Hardlight Shield's pretty cool.
I really like the Hardlight Shield, and I definitely echo your sentiment on the Jackal Shields. But I also like how it's reminiscent of a SWAT shield, or a ballistic shield, that like SWAT people would carry. And I thought it was really cool. And again, I also feel like Armor Lock was overpowered, and this gives you many of the things that Armor Lock did without being so crazy powerful, doing so many things at once and not really having a vulnerability.
Being a Promethean Knight of armor abilities.
Yes. So what about the auto sentry?
I like the auto sentry a great deal, and when I play solo, I tend to use it a lot because it complements my style of play.
Bad guys.
In run and gun war, while it's kind of covering my back and watching the sides. So I definitely enjoy the auto sentry. Great deal. And it's a good, in my opinion, a really good addition.
Yeah. I can definitely see it being useful when you're playing by yourself. It's not really my playstyle. Like I said, I very typically use the Hardlight Shield, and like if I get in trouble, I can pop it up and back around the corner. But I can definitely see where it would be useful to kind of throw up to cover you.
Area secured. Nice. Miller to Poker Squad. Crimson's on their way. Understood, Spartan. Looking forward to the company.
I don't really like the auto sentry that much. I don't think it really outputs enough damage to do anything other than annoy you. It's almost like a mini watcher that's like and I don't know. I just don't see it being that effective. Although it does take attention and aggro off of you and onto it, which can be very useful. And every once in a while,
It's a good distraction.
yeah, it's a good distraction. Every once in a while, I see it making like a kill shot with its little like pew, just because somebody forgets about it or doesn't see it as much of a threat.
Also, for me, it helps with ammo conservation. Like, when I'm trying to fight a knight, I'll pop the sentry, and then it will help whittle it down while I'm trying to conserve my ammo.
That's it. Yeah.
Fair enough.
That's good. Good thought.
Just a few stragglers, Crimson.
So, speaking of knights, Promethean Vision.
Squad, you have the situation in hand.
Okay, Promethean Vision. I feel like it grew out of Visor from ODST. I don't know that to be a fact, but that was my feelings on it. And I loved Visor. I really, really, really loved Visor. But I see Promethean Vision, it distorts you enough, and it's really hard to perceive depth and make accurate shots until you get used to it with Promethean Vision on. And I definitely see that as a balancing issue. It's far more balanced than Visor would be for competitive multiplayer. And so I like that they took the time to give me something reminiscent of Visor. You know, obviously, obviously it shows everyone where you are, but you can see them, and you know, it has limited range, and you can't have it on for that long.
Yeah, it definitely has its own set of benefits versus drawbacks. I personally, like, I don't use it that often, but I understand, you know, it can be very useful to, you know, see people coming through walls. So
I like it for the situational awareness it gives me. I don't know if that's I don't know if you can see that in previous videos, but I like, holy crap, get off me. I like that I can see where, like, what is going on in the battlefield while I'm taking cover, and I can stay abreast of what needs to be done, you know? Also, it helped me see a cloaked elite in a previous episode that I totally killed. That's cool.
Yeah, I mean, I like Promethean Vision too. For me, just like a lot of Halo 1 was an homage to Aliens, the second Alien movie. I think that Promethean Vision is an homage to the Predator series with Predator Vision. So I think that it's interesting that they've incorporated these two almost iconic paragons of the sci-fi genre into the Haloverse. I definitely agree with Fox that I can't not see Promethean Vision and also see the Visor ODST, but I personally like the Promethean Vision more. I don't know if it's the aesthetic, but I just enjoy the experience of Promethean Vision more than I did in Visor. That's just me.
Okay. What about active camouflage?
doesn't, like, again, this is one of those ones where I don't use it very often, but I can see it has a lot of potential benefits, but it doesn't really fall into my playstyle, so it's just, I don't particularly use it as much.
It doesn't fall into my playstyle very often, but Fox and I have talked about this earlier. I find it a little inconsistent. How fast do I need to go to be completely invisible, and how does that work exactly when sometimes the AI can't see me worth a darn, and other times it's like, of course you're there, because of reasons. So that's one of the reasons why I don't use it, is its inconsistency with the AI. And again, it doesn't fully play into my style of play, but if it were more consistent, I think that I would use it.
I'm sure I've clocked the most time out of the group on active camo, and it's really my go-to ability. I like active camo, again, to kind of disguise me within a group, and that seems to work very well. But when I'm going solo is when it's just like, nope, I see you all the time anyway. I don't care that you're crouching and going at a snail's pace. I still see you, and I still shoot you in the face. And that's really frustrating, and it's a balancing act of, okay, how fast can I move? How far away from the thing I am? How much, how much cloak do I have left? It's a lot to manage. I don't really like that. I really liked Halo 2's cloaking, like the Arbiter cloaking, because you were invisible no matter how fast you ran for a certain amount of time. I felt that was more fitting within the Halo verse and more fitting within the Halo gameplay. And obviously it had a time limit, so you had to get whatever you were going to get done. You had to make it to that next piece of cover, or you had to make that one sniper shot or what have you in that certain amount of time. And I liked that pressure and that freedom of movement I enjoyed with that version of cloaking. But the new one is good. It's just, I feel like it's too finicky to get the results I want out of it. But I still use it. I still like it. I just wish it was more forgiving.
I like that it's still around, and that it's one of the most consistent abilities out of all the Halo games.
True.
I don't think that you can call it a Halo game without active camouflage.
Yeah, it's definitely been around since Halo 1 with the elites that show up with swords.
And you can pick it up. You can pick up that little pyramid thing.
Yeah.
And you're cloaked.
So, going on to the regeneration field. I felt...
I use the regeneration field almost exclusively with co-op, because to me that's what it's designed for. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me when playing solo on campaign. I find that it's a mix of the bubble shield medic from Reach and the original regeneration field in Halo 3. The drawback is you get a little wonky once you're inside the regeneration field and there's no bubble shield to protect you from stuff, but I don't know, I kind of thought it was a little overpowered in Reach, but it did too much.
Honestly, if they hadn't had armor lock in Reach, I would have felt that the drop shield was probably the best one out there for Reach, just because it gives you that little shield, and then it also gives you the health. But you can, it can be destroyed, and it can be, vehicles and people can pass through it. Now with the regeneration field in 4, I mean it's very much reminiscent of the regeneration field from 3. So just kind of leaves you out there while people are shooting at you, but you regenerate health faster. Which, is very useful in certain situations, but not as useful, like, across the board.
Yeah, I mean, I personally like the drop shield a lot as well, but I feel like the regeneration field is more fair. What about the thruster pack? Now, obviously, the thruster pack is the evolution of evade, and I personally like evade better. Although I do think it's silly that you need a special armor upgrade to do a barrel roll. But I feel like thruster pack made a lot more sense because it was literally thrusters on your back making you do stuff. But you only get one. You get one and then you have to wait for it to regenerate, where I felt evade, since you had 2, was a lot more useful.
I think it is very much underpowered, in my opinion. And I mean, it can be useful in specific situations, but for the most part, I don't find it incredibly useful.
It's the one I use the least by far. I've used it a handful of times and was terribly unimpressed when I saw it in earlier gameplay before Halo 4 came out, and cutscenes and stuff. I thought, wow, that's really awesome. And since they took away evade from Reach, I thought that the thruster pack was going to be the evade.
I mean,
it really isn't. I mean, I think it's trying to be, but in my mind it failed miserably. It isn't that useful at all. I've seen people use it effectively, and that to me screams of dedication, but also too much time on your hands.
Now what about hologram?
Hologram has always been a very, very useful armor ability from the time it was introduced to its current inception in 4. Great for multiplayer, good for any kind of campaign or co-op, just because it gives you that added second of the enemies kind of looking at that rather than trying to kill you.
Yeah, I feel like the AI on it is pretty good. I feel like it tricks the AI very well, and I feel like it tricks people pretty well too.
Yeah, I think it's a marked improvement of Reach's hologram.
In what way?
I feel as though it's a little more consistent as far as tricking the AI, and also
Final panel located.
just the fact that it continues to come up on your motion tracker, and after it falls into formation, that cutscene or that animation is both clear but brief, and when it just shoot it, that like chow of it phasing out, there seems to be just the tiniest bit of delay, so that you have to kind of second guess whether that person is real or hologram.
Let me get him on the line. Glassman. Hey, Doc.
And I like the hologram. That and Promethean Vision and Active Camo are my favorites. I personally have not noticed that big of a difference between the Reach hologram and the 4 hologram, but I do think it remains a useful armor ability. And finally, Jetpack.
I mean, I've used Jetpack occasionally. It's useful to get around maps and such, but it gives you a little bit more mobility, but I've never really found it to be the best one out there. It's useful, but it's not as helpful as other abilities.
It's almost the same as Reach, outside of the fact that you burn more fuel faster. Outside of that, it's pretty much the same. Useful if you get the hang of it. I've never been a big flyboy, but I've seen it used effectively numerous times.
I feel like it's one of those very map-dependent armor abilities. Like, given the right map, it's very powerful. It's very useful. Given other maps, it's not so much. I feel like it's more of a utilitarian one than kind of an all-purpose go-to one. I've never been a big fan of it, but I do see it utilized well, and I see the reason to have it.
Agreed.
So, in closing, what is everybody's favorite armor ability? Nogri, what's your favorite armor ability?
Definitely Hardlight Shield.
And Radiant?
I like Promethean Vision.
Really? I see you using the auto sentry a lot more.
I do, and it's the most useful, but if I couldn't have any of the others, I think that Promethean Vision is my favorite. Now, it's not the one I use the most, but it's my favorite.
Okay. And obviously, my favorite and most used is Active Camouflage. Well, that about does it for this episode. And for No Green Knights, Radiant Arkwolf, and myself, Lucky Fox Zero, thank you for watching. Make sure to leave your comments below, and don't forget to subscribe. We'll see you here for next week's episode of Debriefing.